what happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit. Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are the medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
Hello and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast. It's me, your host, Robin Stebbins, and today I'm here with Donna Conley, who is a wild moon healer, which I don't even know what that is, but we're going to find out. And Donna, what I'd like to ask us to do is just introduce yourself. Maybe just, instead of your bio, which will be included in the show notes, encourage everyone to read that and also links, but just something that, you want people to know about you and something that really resonates with your heart.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. It's so great to always connect with someone that is about raising the vibe of the collective and the whole planet. My name is Donna. I was born and raised outside of Washington, D.C., but my home is always West Virginia at my Nan's house. And so outside in nature, it's always been a big part of my life. So the fact that I gravitated toward the moon as something that works for me, it's just was natural. I being in nature, I can remember a time, I must have been 7 years old. I would, if I'm in the woods, I'll just disappear. And we were at a place called Blackwater Falls, and I can just hear my mom screech. She was out on the lookout looking at the waterfall, and there was me. I jumped out on the rocks on top of the waterfall, and I was just amazed at how calm the water was, but then it roared over the edge, not realizing what kind of danger I was in at the moment. But everything obviously worked out well. But that's me. I just love to be outside, especially at night under the moon. I'm not a beach person. I'm a mountain person.
You're a mountain person, yeah, and I really resonate with that. Just losing yourself outside. Because I think we have forgotten as humans that we're outdoor creatures.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be inside. You lock your cat or your dog inside and don't let them out. They get really neurotic.
Yeah.
As do us humans. And I think a lot of people in the last 3 years have sequestered themselves more inside, but they're afraid of.
Yes. Yeah. There's still a lot of fear. Still, absolutely to this day, there's still fear. But being out bare feet on the ground, earthing, it's so powerful. Yeah. I'm very fortunate. I have a place that's near me. It's about a half an hour drive, Honey's Harvest Farm, and their main crop is living soil. So they grow. Their whole thing is about healing the ground, because the farm used to be a tobacco farm. So it's had all kinds of pesticides, but nothing, obviously, when she bought the farm, there's absolutely been nothing sprayed out there. And, you see a head of lettuce coming out. It's like holding a toddler. It's crazy when you grow something in rich soil. But to be there, I always take my shoes off and just stand there when I'm there, because it's just that aliveness from the ground. It gravitates right up into your root chakra.
Well, that's the thing, when you're saying you got lost in nature is a healer. When animals get sick, they disappear into nature. Usually they'll find a body of water, salt water or fresh water, but that's what they do. And so healing, and we forget that people talk about grounding, which is good. But earthing, I think, goes farther than grounding. You actually, Mother Earth is a charging station. And so when we have these synthetic shoes on and our socks and everything, we're not getting that recharge. And the longer you go without, releasing all our EMFs and all these toxins that were, I guess they get inside the body, and sometimes they can get trapped. The frequencies, you have a grounding rod on your house for a reason. We've got to ground our excess electrical energy. So how Let's just jump right into raising this vibration on our planet right now, because you're right. I have seen fear, division, and anger kind of as the three main things that have happened in the last 2 or 3 years. And fear of one another, fear of the unknown, fear of tiny particles getting you sick. So in this vibration, how do you take that energy? And I'm assuming you feel that global energy.
Yes.
You know, those of us that are connected to the Mother Earth, we feel it. How do you take that energy and create healing mechanisms and, like you said, modalities and something in your toolbox?
Yeah, well, healing modalities is so important. I think what most people need is stillness. And once they can block out the noise and just hear what's going on in their own heart, not in their head, but in their own heart, that's how we raise the collective energy. It's just based on love instead of fear. We have to flip that script.
And the stillness. I like that you said that, because when we're in stillness, you can sometimes go into, am I doing this right? And how do I say a mantra? That's the brain.
Yeah.
Heart has its own rhythm, and even if you just focus on the rhythm of the heartbeat, boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 that's meditation. But the heart, I believe, has a voice. You have neurons in your heart the size of a cat's head, and some of them innervate your vocal cords, so you can literally speak from the heart.
Yes.
What's your best way to listen to your heart and find that stillness?
When I'm having a hard time quieting my mind, I pull out my mallow beads, and it's like prayer beads. But they're meditation beads. I remember back in the day, I was afraid of them because I was like, if it's a religious thing, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's a big meditation tool. And I just sit down on my meditation poof, and just with every breath in and out, I put the beads through my fingers until I get all the way to the other end. And it's like, it's very satisfying once you get to the end. It's like, okay, I really did that. I really just stilled myself. For me, it takes me, I do a couple times around, because I like to sit for at least 30 minutes. But that tool, that's like a tactical thing that people might be able to tap into and use, that will help them focus on something other than what's going on in their life and all their to-do list and stuff.
Well, I like that. And also for me, meditation doesn't have to be what somebody else tells you. And I think what we're talking about, I think we're both in alignment with this, is that I'm not telling you what to do. You're not telling people what to do. It's showing people how to listen to their own voice, find their own stillness. And for me, meditation sometimes means hiking and moving in nature without thinking. Putting my thoughts to it, not labeling everything like, oh, that's the tree, or that the tree's losing leaves, or oh, look how pretty the flowers are. I mean, that's fine. We do that, humans.
I think people, they're kind of lumping meditation and mindfulness in together. So if you're hiking and you're mindful, you feel the breeze, you smell the flowers, you see a dog that's on the thing, and you're enjoying everything that's around you. But when you're meditative, it's just it's just you, it's just nature, it's just your breath. And like even syncing your breath with your feet steps, every time you move your foot, you breathe in, you breathe out. That's a good way to keep it internal instead of external, which is mindful.
Well, and also when you're taking that breath in, and you can take your shoes off.
Yes.
That step. And it's funny, when I first started taking my shoes off hiking, I thought, oh, I have tender feet, and I would step on rocks, and it took forever just to get anywhere. And now I just walk. It's not that my feet have toughened up, but it's just, you make that eye, mind, heart coordination with the earth. that you just get really good at walking barefoot.
Yeah, I have a lot of hardware in my left foot. So foot health is like huge. They don't teach you that in gym class in high school, but foot health is so huge, and walking barefoot really gets all those little tiny bones and everything that's in your foot. There's so many small pieces in there, and it really works everything when you take your shoes off.
It really does. And it's that almost like, again, what we keep talking about is you're going back to being your natural born human.
Yes.
The one that's not meant to sit inside all day watching a television and wearing your giant synthetic soled shoes, and where we are naturally meant to move around and wander, and we all have territories, and so I like that number one, healing is getting outside in nature, grounding and earthing.
Yes.
And so how else would you take this global climate of fear and create more harmony? I know you do coaching.
Yeah. Well, using the word harmony brought me to my sound healing. I do, I have Tibetan bowls, I have crystal bowls, gongs, all kinds of things that I integrate into meditations. My style of meditation is I sometimes do this guided visualization, and I bring them somewhere in nature, and then I leave them there in their mind too. And that's when I'll start playing the sound bowls and stuff, so that their heart and all will tell them, what do I need out here? And hopefully they find a way in their head to ground in earth and be at one with nature. And then I check on them every once in a while and then bring them back out of it. But the use of sound is just the vibrations, because we're made up of so much water. I want to do a video, and I haven't done it yet, but fill a bowl with water when you play the sound bowl, and you can see it popping up. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And but that's kind of what happens inside of us, because we have so much water in our bodies, and you can just feel these vibrations just moving through you. And it's, I find that to be very relaxing and calming.
Yeah, I have a story about a sound bath. I did some seminars for the probation officers that live near me. Big conferences, is a seminar they had to go to. So, I wanted it to be really nice. And so we talked about stress and its effects on the body, so it would count for the continuing education. But the final hour, it was 4 hours, final hour, I hired a woman to do a sound bath. And these probation officers they're not woo-woo, they're not into, this would be a foreign language to them, what we're talking about, frequency, and you're made up of water and energy and grounding and earthing. But after the sound bath, they were completely relaxed. Every single one of them had just felt like something had washed over them. Some people were crying. It was an amazing experience, and I've done it on 3, 4, 5 occasions.
That's
all
amazing.
all the same results. It's waking up that part of you that's crying for release. I don't think release comes from coming home and getting a glass of wine and turning on the TV. It's what we're programmed to do.
Yeah.
And what makes us great customers and consumers for the health industry as well, or should I say the sick-based program. I've been a registered nurse for 35 years and have seen an epic failure in the medical system to do anything but make people sick.
Yeah, well, that's, my life. If you look at my childhood, it was a lot of trauma. I started drinking in high school, started smoking, and I had my son at 19. I say he saved my life because it gave me a break. But in my 30s, I went back to the drinking and, blackouts and all these things. And all these things that we do to our body. I lived for happy hour. That's a horrible thing to live for. But that's, that was just what the social norm is or was, and I don't know if it still is. And
it absolutely is. Yeah. And it's a culture that's created from the corporations and the industry, specifically the food industry, especially, look at lockdowns, what was available. alcohol.
Yeah.
People use the alcohol, and the sales of alcohol skyrocketed. You could get it delivered to your house. You still can.
Yeah.
You know, even in places like dry counties. And I just
Oh.
got back from Nebraska, and
Mm-hmm.
and the same thing. Same thing.
Yeah. And it's like years of that. It had its toll on my body this year, and so when I started my physical healing journey, it turned into a my spiritual journey, which led to Wild Moon Healing. But this year is my year to focus on physical. I still, I had a lot of internal healing that I had to work on. I have my stomach, I had ulcers, my insides were a disaster from everything that I had done to my own body. But it's amazing how our bodies, they know what to do. And, so it's like, this is my year for everything I've been doing on the inside is going to start showing on the outside.
What was that moment? So you're drinking and smoking and, living for happy hour, as most people do in stressful situations. What was that moment for you that said, hey, I'm meant for something better than this?
I tried to change everything at once, which I don't recommend. That's kind of a painful process. But there wasn't anything about my life that I enjoyed. It was like I realized I'm just in this grind, and it was not fun. It wasn't pleasurable. There was zero joy in it. And I was like, who am I? This isn't me. I've lost myself. And then I started wondering, did I ever even know who I was in the first place? And, it's everything I'm finding on the inside. I feel like even though I have like weight to lose and stuff still from things I've done to myself, but I feel like I'm healthier than I've ever been. Because even in high school, I was this teeny tiny thing, but I was drinking. I had unresolved trauma from my youth, all these things. I repressed memories that came out after I had my son I thought they were nightmares, and it turned out they were memories. And, so it was like all this healing that started happening once I allowed it. You have to, and that's the hard thing, is letting it come up. And we store all these feelings in our bodies. That's why we eat. That's why we drink. That's why we smoke. Because if we're constantly putting, watching Netflix and all these things, if we're constantly putting things in our heads, then that keeps everything else down, right?
Yeah.
And it's, whoever came up with that, you have to feel it to heal it. I hate that, but you do. That's the only way to surrender and let it go.
Yeah.
Letting go processes, can be so many different things, but, all the way from forgiveness to just loving yourself. And, once you get to that place where you really just want to love yourself, that's when
it woke up. And and that is true. And I think, when I started my journey way back when, it was, you got to love yourself. But what does that even mean when you haven't had that experience of doing anything but hating yourself? And a couple things that you said. One, we start drinking and smoking to socially in high school, that's one thing. But there's a reason some people go on to drink heavily and use it as a numbing agent, because your trauma is something that you have decided it's too much. I want to numb out and run from it. And so you keep running, and then it keeps stockpiling.
Yes.
Right? So then we're condensing more and more and more stuff that you're now going to have to feel. And at a certain point, you're like, forget it. What in the, I don't want to feel all this stuff. And that's the thing, like you said, when you quit everything at once, you don't recommend it, but sometimes that's what we kind of have to do, right? Because then you're going to have to feel all of those feelings. You realize this is why I was drinking. This is why I was smoking. This is why I was whatever it is. People all, food, Porn, so many people are watching porn. It's free, it's available. All of those are separating mechanisms to keep you separate from feeling your feelings that day and the week before and the month before, and then depending on your level of trauma, maybe a lifetime that you've been running from.
And that was me. You know, I started my journey about 8 years ago. So I had lived my whole life not mourning my brother. You know, not all these that, you know, that was I don't have a lot of memories before the age of 13. I really blocked a lot out. And I wish I could, because there's things I wish I could remember. But you know, it's you don't have to remember everything to heal from it. That's important too.
Yes.
And it's just, and it's kind of like an onion. It's like, didn't I deal with that? And something like, especially with something like grief, you know, so you can smell something and it brings you back in time, you know, so your brain will let you, give you enough to heal this, to move to this next level, but it's still this big, you know, Pandora's box in here.
Yeah, well, and I think it's important too to, you know, when you have suffered significant trauma, the medical establishment tells you to go to counseling, go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or somebody with degrees after their name. You don't necessarily, and I would say, I mean, I have 35 years experience in the field of psychology and as a nurse now, hospice and everything. It doesn't help you.
Yeah.
You all will find the outliers who are like, no, counseling saved my life. But usually they're still in counseling, and usually they're still marinating in problems. And you don't have to bring up every single traumatic experience to heal from it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for saying that. Because we can get mired in it. And I have seen so many people get stuck and like, well, was I sexually abused? I'm working through seeing if there's memories coming up about that, and they get stuck there.
Yeah.
But there's no healing. And it's just this, it's almost like this rumination or obsession.
Yeah. You're just reliving the trauma over and over again, which isn't healthy. Another healing modality that I found, I discovered a little over a year and a half ago. And now a good friend of mine, Trish, she does breath work. And it's not just, it's like serious work. It's this, you know, you change the oxygen CO2 levels in your body. And the very first time I did it, I had emotions coming up. What they were, I had no idea, but I was fighting it. And literally my whole body went numb until I released, and I just started weeping. And it was like, what was that? But it was so healing. I don't even know what it was, you know, but I've gone many times since then. I love to go to her monthly classes, and something always comes up. And sometimes I don't know what it is, and sometimes I know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But you know, but breath work gets you out of your head. It gets you moving the energy in your body, which gets things out, which is where it needs to go. Yeah.
It gets things out. And that's a good point. You didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
You were blocking it. And then when you didn't block it, you were weeping and you were crying. The body has an intelligence that neither one of us will ever understand. Even if I have the room full of these smartest people in the world, they will never figure out how the human body works. It made itself in your mother's womb. It knows how to heal itself. Trust that. I know that for a fact. Your body does not want to store things that is not serving your highest potential.
Yeah.
But that's it, where our programming comes in from such an early age, Donna. Wouldn't you agree? Like I look back at Disney movies and superhero movies. It's, you know, the normal citizen, you and me, we just need to sit there and hope that somebody comes to rescue us. Or for women, I just hope this man finds me beautiful and rescues me on his white horse into the sunset.
Yeah.
And that's the programming. And when your life isn't like that, it can lead to a disconnect.
Yeah. Why is this, you know, whatever someone defines as normal, if they don't have that, and it's and what it is our minds see things the way we experience things. But what you have to focus on is, this is what I want to create in my life, whatever that is. But you have to figure out, what does that feel like? Not what does it look like, but what does that feel like? And when that feel, because it can look like anything, when it manifests, you have to know the feeling that you're going after.
Yeah, that I like that. So we must have been sisters in another lifetime, because this is everything that I talk to people about. When I say, when you want $1 million, or this is this house or that, you're not after those tangible, the drywall and the paper money. You're after the feeling state you think those things will bring you. I figured that out when I was really young. Growing up in this, I was the black sheep of the family. And they said, you're never going to amount to anything. You're too wild. You're too this, too, not smart enough. And I thought, yeah, but maybe you're smarter than me. Maybe you're going to be a doctor and a lawyer and all that, which they did. But I can be happy now in this moment, right now, even though you're going to be getting those things and think that's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And that attaining that goal will make you happy.
Yeah.
I can do that right now. It was just this sense of freedom. I mean, I didn't have a lot of other stuff figured out, and I, crashed and burned many, many times, high school and college and everything. But I figured that piece out.
Yeah.
And that has maintained, so it's not a obsession to go after.
Yeah.
An external.
Yeah. You see all these successful people, but some people are going after their parents' dreams. Some people are doing, they're doing what they have to, they should do, that list of things. And it's like, if you really want satisfaction, you have to figure out, what do I want, and make sure that's what you're going after. Because you can have the job, the car, the house, the wife, but if what you want is to be in the woods and have a nice little cabin, then you're not going to be happy with this, life in the neighborhood where everyone has the same house. And
well, again, that's exactly what we're programmed to see success as. Get your degree. And, as parents, I have a 16-year-old son. It's like, oh, well, you get to brag about what your child is doing, or, it's all these external things. And so if you're not going back to what you talked about initially, what does your heart want? You're going to continually be disappointed or live in a state of anxiety or depression. I don't know how many doctors I've met that are miserable. I don't know how many lawyers and really successful people that are just miserable. They didn't think it was going to be like this, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and constant headaches and stress and lawsuits. And that's, again, when you can tap into that raw, wild moon energy.
Yes.
Call it that.
I love it.
To know your destination. And it's not like, oh, there's my North Star, I'm setting sail for that. It's multifaceted. What do you want in this moment that will bring you joy or peace or whatever emotion that feels good to you?
Yeah. And you need to know, like with wild moon healing, you're doing 3 things at the same time. So you have this dream and you know what you want to feel like. So you're trying to strive for that. And you come up with your to-do list, these actions that inspire you, not just a to-do list. They have to inspire you or you're not going to do them, right? And you're doing these things working towards your goal, but you're learning about yourself at the same time, which leads to healing. And as you're going after your goals and healing simultaneously, then your life changes.
Yeah, it does. So tell me a little bit more about your approach with wild moon healing, because I believe the best healers are the ones that have been through it themselves and come out the other side. We're never perfect. I'm
No.
always, until my last breath, guarantee you, going to be working on something major that
Yes.
everyone will think, yeah, you should be working on that, Robin. That's just how it is, though, right? That's just
Yeah.
your work in progress. You're not coming here to live in eternal bliss in heaven, because then it would cease to be bliss.
Yeah.
You have to have the contrast. That's why we're here, not to get bumped around and be miserable, but just say, okay, this is joy. I love this feeling, not attached to it. Realize it's fleeting.
Yes.
The same as peace or anger, or, there's all those emotions, like when they're welcome,
Mm-hmm.
they have a place. They don't become this powerful thing that then controls you.
Yeah, because anger is a valid emotion. You're allowed to feel it, you're allowed to express it, but you don't want it to take control.
Yeah.
Because if it's controlling the situation, then that's not healthy.
You will be its puppet. And so anger is a tricky one, I think, for a lot of people to figure out, because you don't want to be reactive.
Yeah.
Reactive anger, you are controlled by whoever you're reacting around.
Yes.
They own you, and they're probably enjoying every minute of it. But anger, like, I feel a lot of anger sometimes, especially for what's happening right now to children, or giving a child puberty blockers, or telling a child they can cut their genitals off when they're 12 or 13, or actually allowing them to do that. Like, that makes me angry, but it's anger with a purpose.
Yes.
I feel like, okay, I'm angry about that. That's not right. And you can't convince me ever that that will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
That child, if you continue to go on and you turn to, I would say 26, because we still are developing and maturing up until then that's you. I stand back. That's your journey, and I don't judge it. But so then I can focus that anger in a positive way that doesn't detract or lower any of my vibration or my frequency.
Right. Yeah, because it has a purpose.
It has a purpose.
So, and everything does. I like my sister. I'll throw her under the bus now. But I told her, I said, you need to say no more often. And I said, just say the word to me. And she literally she just looked at me and started laughing. She literally couldn't even just say the word. It's like that's and what I would call an energetic leak. You can't support yourself and have boundaries if you can't say no to something. You don't have healthy boundaries if you don't listen to this anger, because if something angers you and you don't say anything about it, then people are going to start coming into your boundaries in your space. And next thing you know, you have no boundaries, and you're miserable. The people around you are in control of your life instead of you.
Well, and you'll put out that frequency, that energy, and you will attract the leeches and the vampires that suck off that energy of the boundaryless. And I used to have that. I mean, I used to be a doormat in relationships, a barracuda everywhere else, in business, and with my son, boundary, no problem. But when it came to love, I was just this, like, doormat's too strong of a word. I couldn't say no. I would do anything for them, even when they treated me poorly. So, but it's divine when I look at it now, because I had that energy that had to be healed. And we go back to the body's innate wisdom and intelligence. It has to create that yin yang. Here's what you're attracting. Heal this. Not be miserable in these horrible relationships, but heal that part of yourself that then can form these boundaries.
And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, loving yourself. When you love yourself, when you love yourself, that teaches other people how to treat you. And that's creating a boundary. So
well, and when you truly love yourself, and I think we didn't finish that whole idea. When you truly love yourself, you don't create or eat things that don't support your highest potential. You don't drink alcohol, you don't smoke weed or cigarettes or whatever it is that's out of alignment for you.
Yeah.
When you know, okay, this is a poison to me. You know, I do journeys, and I had somebody ask what the diet was before the ceremony. And I said, well, you know those things that are toxic to you. I don't. Because they said, well, could I have coffee the morning of? And I said, it sounds like you're playing in the gray, and you know you shouldn't be drinking coffee, but you want to ask somebody to give you permission. The authority, like, oh, let me ask the authority. She said I could have it, so it's fine. You know, we play those little games with ourselves to our own detriment.
Yes. Yeah. You know, when we grow up with foods that are healthy, right? So you glass of orange juice that's processed, you know, milk, you know, that's gone through all these processing stages. And you know, and I'm learning to listen to my body, and I know my body despises dairy. You know, I know I should never eat red meat. You know, it does things to me. But when you really slow down, and like we said before about mindfulness versus meditation, if you mindfully pay attention to what you're consuming, whether it be food, whether it be television, and see how your body feels, you know, notice that ache in your elbow. Notice how it's a little bit harder to stand up than it was yesterday because your knees have been bent at work all day, and then you come home and sit on the couch. You know, if you really just pay attention to how all that input, whatever it is, affects you physically and mentally, you know.
I think that's the key to all of this, and working your way through and healing your body is truly listening to yourself. And that means all of your senses. You know, what does your body smell like after you've eaten you know, certain things?
Yeah.
Your body will release these toxins, and you'll have an odor. When you're in alignment with everything, you're in, I call it your, it's like your bliss park. I call it Rat Park, but Rat Park is, I'll tell you the story about Rat Park in a second. But when everything's in alignment, your body will feel good. You'll wake up feeling rested. You'll know when you're in that level of harmony, then you'll know, okay, no, I shouldn't eat dairy because I had a piece of cheese and I had this reaction. Your body will tell you closer and closer to that event, the more you are in a harmonious field. So you don't have to wait 3 days of, you know, having gastrointestinal discomfort and diarrhea and all the other things that go with it. It's like, oh, no, my stomach hurt, or your mouth sometimes will go numb, or you will vomit instantly. Your body's like, nope, we talked about this. It's not going to happen. But when you're not in alignment and you have been overriding your body's natural messages, you can just keep powering through it until to the point of a dis-ease state arises.
Yeah, you get the systematic inflammation, and that's where most diseases come from. It's all lifestyle based, you know. And
even inflammation is a miraculous part of the body. It's not, you know, all the new age stuff is now, oh, well, all disease stems from inflammation. No, all disease comes from the toxins that you're consuming and the poisons you're consuming. The body is trying to keep up, creating the inflammation to try and survive.
Yeah,
that's not the problem. The problem is stop poisoning yourself.
Because once you stop that, everything starts to heal. I know that personally.
Yes. Well, say a little bit more about that. I'm just really, and I think your story, especially for, you know, people that are listening in my audience, they're definitely on that awakening journey. You know, we've all done our things that to our body that has not created health and wellness until you wake up and you're like, okay, now. But then it's that track.
Yeah. Well, I would, you know, smoking and drinking, and I would be coughing, and I'd still light another cigarette. You know, that's that. You got to stop putting the input in. But once I hit my I don't know what you, well, when I hit that point where I was like, okay, I need to start being nicer to me, being kind to myself. I had Crohn's. I was looking at losing some intestines. I had stomach ulcers. I lost my gallbladder, hormonal stuff, women's stuff. It was completely out of control. Um, my weight maxed out at 300 pounds, and it was just everything. And once I stopped, the social stuff, the drinking and the smoking, that turned on another thing that I wasn't completely prepared for, which was this loneliness. I'd run into friends and they don't invite you out because well, you don't drink. So are you still going to go out and all these things? And then you do go out one time. They're like, I miss drunk Donna. She was fun. It's like, okay, well, that just put me down. I don't know who she is anymore, but I'm not that bad. And so you go through all these things, and so if you're making major changes, you have to be prepared for alone time, which is what you need.
Yeah. Well, and just a caveat to that, you're vibrating at a different frequency than you
Yes.
were before, which is the point. But those people that you were vibrating with,
they don't
earlier,
understand it because they didn't change. Yes.
they're still at that same frequency, and you've adapted a new one. So it's going to take time to recalibrate
Yeah.
and find those people that are drawn to this new version of yourself, or it's simple math. It's just a different frequency.
Yeah. And when I started doing my, what I call moon work, and working on myself, my very first healing modality that I got into was EFT tapping. Um, and my very first big aha moment was my sister and my mom, very artistic. I could walk into an art exhibit and I'm like, oh, there's my sister's painting. They're like, how do you even know that from here? Because her strokes, it's a signature. And then there's me, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. And my big aha moment, my very first one, which completely exploded my creative center, was that I realized being creative and being artistic isn't the same thing. I can still be creative, and I am very creative in so many ways. I don't do oil paintings, but I've discovered that I can paint furniture and I'm really good at it. And in cooking, and I do meal prep, and all the pictures that I put out there, my friends are like, oh my gosh, I get these private messages from people from high school going, well, here's what I did this week. It doesn't look like your pictures, but and it's just I'm like, so that's once you really ignite your creative center, which can be anything, not art or music. I mean, it can really be anything.
That's it.
That's when people start saying, I don't know what she's doing, but I want to join in on this. And that's what happened. I had a small group of friends they were like, okay, Donna, we were loving what we're seeing. What are you doing? And so I was like, well, I'm manifesting with the moon. And they're like, I have no idea what that means. Tell me more. So we created this sisterhood of wild moon healers, which is where my wild moon healers came from. And I started doing these moon reports, and I would try to teach them about, bringing in astrology. Here's what we're going to do with this full moon, but also throw in, here we're going to study chakras this month, and these kind of things. And then I tore my Achilles a couple years ago. So it was like the universe was like, we need to stop her because she needs to write this book. So here I was laid up, and which is put a hold on my physical healing. And I asked them, I'm like, what about these moon reports? What if I change these into a draft of a book? And they're like, do it. And so now that released last September.
Wow. Do you have a copy you could hold up?
Oh, I do. Yep. So Wild Moon Healing.
Oh, that's a beautiful cover.
A friend of mine from high school, Charlene Perky, I reached out to her because her style, I love it. And I sent her, I said, here's a little blurb about what I'm writing in my book. I said, do you want to try to do a cover? And I couldn't afford much, but I got a pencil sketch, and I thought she just did a great job capturing what I was telling her. And so
Yeah.
that color is very special to me.
Well, and look at what you manifested by that healing. Instead of like, oh no, the world's against me, I toward my Achilles. This is not right. It's like, oh no, what are the gifts I can find in that
Yes.
moment that are in alignment then with your trajectory where you're going?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really beautiful. I want to just point out, okay, so when I say rat park, and this kind of goes threads through the whole conversation. So they did this study with rats and they got them addicted to cocaine water. And so they took the addicted cocaine water rats and they put them in this, what they called rat park. It was everything a rat could possibly want. It had social life, it had games and best food. And so then they offered the cocaine water and the just regular water. And none of the rats went back to the cocaine water. So so what we're trying to do then is like, what's Robin's rat park? What's Donna's rat park? Like, what are the things that I need so that I'm not going to be in a vibration state where I think I need to numb or fix a feeling or change a feeling or create a feeling. Like, this is all I want. Like, this is more than I could possibly ask for. So that's what, when we're talking about healing and listening to your heart and your inner voice, creating that zone of rat park, allow. And then
completely different for every person. Your rat park is going to be as unique as you are, and that goes for everybody.
Exactly. And so, and that's the whole point of having everyone different. Like, we're different snowflakes.
Yeah.
So I get to bring in my brand of brilliance to the table, and you get to bring in your brand of brilliance, and we get to, inspire one another to continually to elevate, because I think if you're not elevating, you're stagnating, and anything that stagnates decays in nature.
Yes.
Like, you want to know how the world works, look at nature. That's the laws of nature. They are perfect, but they're unchangeable. It's not like, hey, we need to get some of those nature laws changed. Like, I'm just not really liking fall anymore. These leaves are a mess, right? How silly is that? But that's what when we're talking about trying to change certain things that are undeniable. Like, look into who and what you are creating and design it around what's possible.
Yeah. And using, I follow the lunar cycles, but it's also that follows seasons and everything else, because what I call the lunar new year is in line with the astrological new year, which is spring. That's the time for creating, in the fall, it's a time for release and those things, so if you kind of manifest with the moon and do what nature's doing, it all kind of works better.
Well, and that's what I'd like to say also, get rid of the rules.
Yeah.
The rules are, okay, January 1st is New Year's. Doesn't need to be.
No.
It's not when I don't like that time of year. It's depressing. It's after holidays, and it just seems like more and more and more stress. The spring is renewal. I come out of my hibernation. I know what my body likes to do. I like to hibernate in the winter. I don't like to go out. If you ask me to go out, even if it's 6:00 p.m. and it's dark, forget it. I am holed up. Like, it's dark outside. I'm not going outside. No. Not gonna happen. But that's me.
But if you look at statistics, New Year's resolutions don't work. And if you look at the moon energy like I do as a year, that's the waning cycle. That's the time when you got to let go. You got to forgive yourself. You got to love yourself. This isn't a time and nature tells you that there's only so much sunlight. You have to be more still that time of year. It's not the time
to you eat differently.
Yeah.
And spring, it's a natural time to cleanse. Your appetite goes down. It's the perfect time to do a different food regime. It's a perfect time to cleanse or to fast.
Yeah.
Not in the winter when you're already kind of hibernating and hungry and I mean, but who knows? Maybe you have a different rhythm. So when I say this works for me, it doesn't need to be like get out your pens and papers and
Yeah, this is what I have to do now. No.
no, who cares what works for me? I'm just saying what works for me so that you can start to tap into what is my natural rhythms? When do I like to be out and about? What do I enjoy doing? And when we go back again to self-love, you love yourself. So if you're having trouble figuring out what that means, you can ask yourself, what's the kindest thing I can do for myself in this moment?
Yes.
And then that will build on itself. Like all of these things that I think we're talking about, Donna, I don't know if you'll agree, they build on itself. So it just creates more momentum to that healing modality or energizing yourself or helping yourself relax.
Yeah, everything you do raises your vibration just a little bit more. And, once you're vibing high, you'll know it. Everyone around you will know it. And
Yes.
yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing. I feel very strongly about what's happened over the past few years. And my nature is like, I need to change it, but I can't change the external.
Yeah.
So I can only change the internal. And so I went power 7, power 10 into figuring out how can I vibrate differently so that I can connect with anyone. Like if you don't agree with me, but yet we can still find that common ground to have connection and communication, because I wanted to be the opposite. I didn't want to be fear, anger, separation, division, like you believe this and I believe that, so we can't talk. I wanted to be able to talk to everyone, and I think I'm getting closer.
Yeah, because as we raise our vibration, we start attracting people that are on that same path or the same level of vibration. And then your interaction with your external world starts to change because you're not attracting this low vibe stuff anymore. Yeah.
That's it. And and life, then the environment is your biofeedback. Is this working? You'll know, because look at the people that you're attracting. Oh, these are soul people. These are my soul tribe. Yes. I'm on the right track. It's almost like you're a tracker, hunting for a treasure. And you keep getting clues like warmer, 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 cold, 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 so it's like you calibrate your motions to that center.
Yeah.
That's giving you the feedback.
Yeah. Because a lot of people will, as far as like attracting, we'll go back to attracting a mate, right? Somebody that's to share your life with. So you have these list of things and you get this perfect person, right? He's got matches all these checklists except one thing that doesn't make you feel good on the inside, but he's got everything else. But if you accept that, it's going to lower your vibration, because whatever that one thing is that bothers you, it's not going to change,
unless that one thing that's bothering you is because of your low vibration.
Yeah.
So that could be you're irritated with his looks, or you don't like the way he dresses, or you don't like how other people see him, so you're embarrassed. You don't think he's high class enough to be around.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
That's different. If it's the thing that you're like, he doesn't understand me. He doesn't understand the language I speak. And you have opened your mouth and said all of the other things. Hey, I love you, but can we have a conversation around this? And if it's like, I don't even know what you're talking about, you're speaking Greek,
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you know.
Then you know. And are you in a relationship?
No, not right now, but I've definitely attracted great men in my life. They just wrong time, this, that, the other. I really, really have had relationships with some really good people. And then I've had relationships where I clearly attracted that for the sole purpose of just something occupying my time versus actually getting to know someone. Because it was never deep. There was never talk. There was never, this is me, this is what I'm feeling, and these things that
Yeah.
are important.
Yeah. And it's too, we, you, me, I get to define what I want in a relationship. What does it look like?
Yeah.
I listed on a piece of paper everything that I wanted, and it kept getting more and more non-specific, like more and more vague. And I was like, I want him to have an open mind. I want him to understand what I'm talking about. Not, he doesn't have to agree with it, but to understand, and we could have an open conversation around things. I have all these ideas that just sometimes, some of them come from, outer space, some of them, who knows, but just to have an open mind to, and, even down to, I don't want a bunch of printed t-shirts and gaudy clothes, just, silly stuff like that. But because I feel like that represents something also.
Yeah.
And
like when I said I met these great people, I didn't know myself. So how could they stay around if even I didn't know how to treat me and how to love me and talk to me? It's like it's not going to work unless you know yourself.
And you can't create a list of somebody that you want to be with unless you truly know yourself.
Yep. Yes.
And so, and then the caveat to that is, as you're working on yourself, you're changing your frequency, somebody's going to have to be catching up, just trying, running alongside you. Or it's like, okay, take this time to get to this place where you're ready to allow that relationship frequency in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it will happen, because
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's you get to decide your perfect partner and timing and all of that, because now you've checked in with your heart, not Disney movies and whatever. I haven't had a TV on for 16 years, so I'm kind of out of the loop. But and I turned it off because of that. It says I got done being programmed for this.
Yeah. There's no Prince Charming out there. There's just two imperfect people that are just going to love each other's imperfections and roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that connection. And we're also, not are we only outdoor creatures, we're social creatures.
Yes.
So, and you don't find that one soulmate that fills every single need that you have. You fill your own needs. And once you do that, wow, then watch the people come in.
Yes.
You're not like, okay, I need a friend because I'm lonely, or I need a boyfriend because I'm lonely. It's, man, I'm filled up. I'm vibrating. I've got my Robin Park fully functioning. I've got all these things that I love to do. You don't need anyone. You're not grasping. Watch out. They will flood in and you will not be able to keep up. That I know.
And not just romantic relationships, new friends, new business connections, everything will just start coming in at the right time.
Yeah. And it's just, that's that biofeedback. Okay, this is it. This was work. Boom. I got it. I love that. Okay. Well, I'm going to be respectful of your time. It's, I like to kind of end with something that, 3 things you can tell someone to do today after listening to you, and they're going to probably go get your book. I know I want to read it now too.
Oh, that's awesome.
What are 3 things you can do today if you're feeling stuck, or you're just in that low vibration frequency, you're feeling overwhelmed, to get started on that process?
I'm going to lump it all together as a 3-part. Start thinking about what makes you happy in the past. What have you done that made you laugh, that has a great memory? And then start thinking about, I want to do that again. Who do you want to do it with? Make a list out. And then also do a list of gratitude. What are you thankful for? You know, because a thankful heart attracts much more than a worry or an anxiety. But when you get back to just basics, you know, what's made you happy? And who was around you when you were happy? And what are these things? And so just make a list of, you know what, I want to bake cookies with my sister, and I am so thankful for the opportunity that I can still do that. You know, it's like I haven't baked with her in forever, so let's go do that. You know, it can be that simple. But what do you want to do that makes you happy? Who do you want to do it with? Make a plan to do it, and then you know what makes you happy about that and thankful for it.
Yeah, and the gratitude, that is I think one of the biggest mind blank, but the most powerful mechanisms that we can incorporate into our life.
Yes.
Especially, and if you want to amp that up, add in gratitude when things are not.
Yeah.
In
Or even
the best of case.
The things, if you're trying to release something like me, so I'm releasing physical weight, you know, I'm releasing this limiting belief that I always tell myself that I'm not good enough when this happens. But if you're releasing something, thank it first. Because if you're thinking about what you want to let go, you're going to attract more of that. But if you thank it and say, you know, you were here for me, you protected me through this time, this was your purpose, but you know, that purpose is gone. So thank you, but I don't need you anymore. You know, when you add that gratitude to the release,
yeah,
it
Donna,
completely
that's
changes the
powerful.
dynamics.
I got chills. That's because it is all of this, you know, what we said the whole time. Your body is miraculous. It
Yeah.
has an intelligence beyond anything we can fathom. And so the weight was there for a purpose, an emotional purpose, whatever it was. And again, you don't need to know exactly what the purpose was. It just allow it to be. And then I love what you said. I'm going to start doing this. Give it thanks. Thank you for being here. You're not needed anymore, but I appreciate all of the work that you put in when you were here.
Yeah, it completely shifts the energetic vibe of what you're trying to release from something negative to something positive.
Yeah. And then hold up your book one more time. I just want, because this is how I am. I'm like, what was that book's name again?
Yes.
Wild
Wild
Moon
Moon
Healing.
Healing.
And you can get that on Amazon too.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Wild Moon Healing. I'll have the link ready to go in the show notes. And anything else you want to add to this amazing conversation?
No, it was a great conversation. I can't wait for it to go live so I can hear it again.
I know, me too. It has some really good nuggets. And that's what I love doing podcasts, because it always makes me think, stop, and I always incorporate this stuff too. It's my elevation, and this is part of my rat park. This is part of Robin Park. So Donna, thank you so much for your time and all of these wonderful wisdom nuggets that you provided, and take really good care of yourself. And I really am excited to see what this Wild Moon Healing turns into. I think it's going to be big.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Me too. Me too.